These dick tone out of the
You can't do that live. You can't do that live.
This is not
What's
safe
going
for work.
on? What's going on? Welcome back, everybody. It is After Hours with PlayBack Gaming. Let me adjust this because I always forget to adjust the camera like I'm supposed to properly be doing. You're supposed to monitor the chat, and I'm supposed to be
we're
doing this, right? So,
wait, oh yeah, there it is.
you got the chat, you got the chat. Word.
Yeah, I do.
Right? As we delay this even longer than what we have. So if you got the chat up, then I'll let you anytime somebody's speaking, you know what to do. You know what to do. Welcome back, everybody.
Chat. Hi, how are you?
Welcome back to the next episode of After Hours. It is May the 3rd of 2017, and we have things to talk about as well as drinks to drink down. It's not just regular coffee, I swear. There's O'Hare's.
I need another one.
You need another one?
Another one.
You're already down in yours. What are you drinking today? Are you drinking the same thing?
Yeah.
Typical.
Ow. I mean, you saw the bottle I had last week. I have to finish that before I go on my some Jameson.
Right? Well, today we got some things to talk about. You know, Mr. Phil Spencer, of course, if you haven't heard, which if you haven't heard by now, you've probably been living under a rock. All of the comments that he was making in an interview and had the gaming world in a frenzy because he was speaking about single-player games. He was in an interview with Xbox On, and then there was another one with The Guardian. Just some of the things that he said and how things got misconstrued, or whether you don't believe that it was misconstruing and you really believe that Phil Spencer hates single-player games. Hey, Reaper, do you have Phil on your friends list at all?
I do not. No.
You don't?
I do. I should probably toss my friend request.
You know, ironically, he's talking about these single-player experiences. However, I think other than Destiny, I don't see him on very many multiplayer games, which is kind of interesting, to say the least.
He did say in his interview with Xbox On that he prefers to play socially and casually, so it doesn't really make sense for him to play heavily based multiplayer games if he's not going to do it competitively.
Right, but the last I knew, it was Little Nightmares was the last thing that I think I saw that he was playing, and before then, his big thing was Thimbleweed Park, Thimblewood Park, something like that. I apologize, but they're not multiplayer games. So if you're playing single player games, why would you make these comments about single player games? What do you think? Huh?
It's $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, if you focus primarily on single player games, why would you want to stop making those games and stop putting those games on your console that you enjoy to play so much?
You know, it's essentially what I was thinking myself. But regardless, how do you feel about the way that single-player games are these days?
I mean, some are good, some are bad. It really depends on the game itself, really, I guess. I mean, you got a game like Metal Gear Solid that's like 200 plus hours of single-player gameplay that you can just get lost in. But then you get a game like Mass Effect where it's like, yeah, this is fun for 12 hours. And then after you beat it, you're like, well, that was fun. Now what? So it really is dependent on like the game itself, I guess.
How often do you repeat playing a single-player game? Do you use something? Because I know whenever I play a single-player game, I don't repeat playing the same thing over and over and over. Like I beat it once, and that's why I try to beat it on the most difficult, the highest difficulty that I can beat it on, because I don't want to go do it again. Like I'm one of those gamers. Like I'm like I've already done this once, you know. And do you beat yours multiple times? Because I don't.
Yeah, actually, yeah. The one game I do that numerous times with is Gears of War. And that's always because up until 4, I believe, in order to unlock the hardest difficulty, you had to beat it on the third highest to unlock the highest, then you go back and beat on the highest for another achievement. So I'd always go back and beat it on the third highest to unlock the highest to go do it all over again. And even then, I'll get bored and be like, you know what? I want to go play a game that's going to test my sanity. So I'll go play Gears of War on the hardest difficulty and see how long I can last before I want to break my controller. Usually about one or two checkpoints, and then I spike the damn thing. But
okay.
And games with good stories, like Mass Effect again, great storyline. I'll play all three of those in one sitting, no questions asked. Zelda, no question. I'll sit through and play Ocarina of Time, skip the Water Temple entirely because no one has time for that anymore. But I mean, yeah, I'll go back and play a couple times through.
Okay, so yeah, see, I guess that might be like the biggest difference between you and I and everything. Like, I tried to go play Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Xbox One and play that through because it's not a bad campaign, especially for the Grand Theft Auto series. It's a great campaign. It has a lot of versatility with it. It gives you various options. There's different ways that you could play through the game and beat it. You don't have to do the same mission. You could pick and choose which mission. Eventually, all roads lead to the same outcome, you know. Of course, I believe on this one, you can backstab somebody if you want to, or you could save everybody. Of course, I guess that's your alternate ending. So some people would have an incentive to go play a alternative ending, you know, and that's just for us. So with the comments that were made and everything, it was speaking, and primarily two games were brought up, which was Zelda Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn, and it wasn't something that was brought up in a negative light. It was more of, he was speaking that it's an anomaly that these games come out these days where you have a game that can have, you know, that big of a sell. Because if you look at something like the Tomb Raider games, Square Enix said that was a failure and it sold millions. Like, how can you sell millions and declare it a failure? You know, whenever you look at the opposite end of the spectrum, something that has a multiplayer, or I guess that's not fair because Tomb Raider does have multiplayer, but you know, something that is based around the multiplayer. If you look at the Battlefield, your Halos, your Call of Duties, hell, how long has, you know, Elder Scrolls Online been on console? Even when it was back in its trash day, you and I both played that, you know.
Yeah.
My girlfriend tonight was just cussing the game out because of a boss she couldn't beat, you know. So do you think that it was unfair to name these games, or do you think that it's a fair point that these are anomaly games?
I'm not gonna say they're anomaly games because, again, look at the Legend of Zelda franchise. How successful has that franchise been over the years?
Right.
Horizon Zero Dawn, again, I can't really say it's an anomaly game because all I hear about that game and all the hype going into it is that it was going to be a fun game. But, again, I personally don't feel like the single-player franchise is dead. That's why I don't get why everyone's freaking out about how single-player franchises are like, oh, they're so boring. Like you referenced Elder Scrolls. That game could very well be a single-player game if you want it to be.
Yeah.
But it's not meant to be that way. But, you know, I mean, I can't call them anomaly games at all because you get Zelda with the franchise that it's had for the past, 30 years now?
Right.
So for somebody to sit there and tell me that Zelda is like, oh, you know, the single player, it's a once in a lifetime single player game that actually makes money. No, it's not. Those games have been selling like hotcakes for a while.
Well, I think where I would say that I would declare it a anomaly game more so is the fact that how often does a Zelda come out, you know, compared to a Zelda knockoff that will come out and completely flops and nobody plays it, or they play part of it and then they never beat it. Or with Horizon Zero Dawn, if you look at something like what was it, the Order 1886, beautiful game, but you spent $60 to play an 8-hour game, you know, which, I mean, to be fair, it's not the only one that does that, where you spend $60 and you beat it one time, you played it for 8 hours. What happens after those 8 hours? Like, do you really have that incentive to go play it again?
You have to sit there and wait 3 months for a DLC to come out. and then they'll give you an extra 2 hours of gameplay, but it costs you $40.
Right.
Hello, Destiny.
Pretty much. It's like, how can we fix this? Right?
Oh, that's what it's like for me today. Well, we started early, I guess.
But I mean, I guess you could say on the opposite end of the spectrum, you spend $60 for a game that clearly, when it released, it was not what it's supposed to be. But that's a completely different, story itself. And I think that this is a good conversation, especially between you and I, because you're the kind of gamer that you yourself, you purchase old consoles, and we'll see in the chat room all the time that you're bitching about the Water Temple, for Ocarina of Time or whatever Nintendo 64 or Super Nintendo game that you're playing and everything. And it looks like that he's already being harassed.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Mom says hi. Yeah, I was getting harassed by mother.
So you're the kind of person who will buy the old consoles and you'll play through the old games, which, other than the Xbox, the other consoles really aren't the social spaces that the Xbox consoles were built around. Like, I mean, you look at the original Xbox, Halo didn't sell the Xbox because of the single player game. Was it good? It was pretty decent, especially for a single player at the time. A campaign that that magnitude, it was good. But it sold itself on the fact that you could link the Xbox to another Xbox and link TVs to those, and now you have 8 people, and then you get a router and you link up another Xbox and another Xbox, and now you got 16 people. That's what it sold itself on. It's a social experience. What they do at QuakeCon is what goes on there. So that's what the Xbox itself sold itself on, and I feel like that for the Xbox, it should stick closer to the multiplayer sphere, or at least that social sphere, where it gives it so that it's essentially it's bread and butter. I still believe that you do have the anomaly games. I still I know that we disagree on it. I do believe that Zelda games are an anomaly, because not Zelda itself being an anomaly, but because Zelda only comes around every so often. And a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, people love it, but it only comes around every so often, versus all of the other games that try to mimic what they do. So, and I'm getting things by High Res right now. I'm getting messaged by them. Anyways, it's like that was random. So they only come around every so often. And whenever I look before that, you look, Witcher 3 is probably one of the bigger ones that I could think of, or Fallout 4. In which, with Fallout and with Witcher 3, if you look at it, look at the campaign for The Witcher 3. We take that $60 price point, and we look at the Order 1886. People say you can beat it in 8 hours. I've never played it. Just going based off of what I hear. It could be wrong, could be right. Who knows? Maybe use a Game Genie. You beat it in 2 hours. So you look at The Witcher 3, and you're looking at over 100 hours worth in the campaign itself, just to 100% it. And that's not including the DLC that they gave away for free, and then the DLC down the line that they did months after and everything that continue to expand on it. Now, granted, some of that you do have to pay, additional for, but it shows itself as that the arc, the anomaly that sticks up like that big old pillar. And then, of course, you look at Fallout, and damn well Bethesda looked at Fallout and they said, how can we keep this in people's hands? Because they were looking at what happened with Skyrim on Steam and just on PC. And, 4 or 5 years down the line, people are still playing Skyrim because what do? They add mods to it. So what did they have to do on the console to make sure that you didn't take your game back into GameStop and sell it off there? They had to add the mods, essentially. So I really do feel that, some of these single player experiences, they definitely are anomalies. Shout out to Gaming Addict. He did a show recently about Recore. But whenever I look at Recore, it doesn't strike me as that anomaly figure, for better or worse. or even another one with Microsoft, the Ori and the Blind Forest. And I know I'll catch a lot of flack for this because I love the franchise. I really love the first game. The other two I could really care less for. But the first Fable, I don't think that it's even on equal terms. Now, granted, it's kind of a totally different sphere. What do you think about that? Do you think is it just because Xbox really doesn't have that tentpole franchise that sticks out? Do you think that might have a little bit to do with that, Reaper?
So I'm trying to think of what single player franchise they actually have and what their bread and butter was for single player campaigns, and I can't seem to think of one. I like the bread and butter franchise that Microsoft built, from what I understand it as and what I look at it as, they built their entire franchise on was Halo, which, unless you were doing like an old school, everybody sit in a freaking room, screen watching each other, don't lie, we all did it. You were barely playing the game unless because it was multiplayer based heavily. So, I mean, you could argue that they don't really have that like you said, tentpole where it's like, this is our single player franchise. This is where we're going forward with it. This is what we're going to use to completely do the single player and focus heavily on this. Right, Xbox does seem kind of more like it's multiplayer, more social based, whereas PlayStation kind of, because of how old it is before online gaming came to consoles, they had a lot more games out. That was just, you know what, you're playing by yourself, here you go. Like, I watched the first multiplayer game on a PlayStation 2 was what, SOCOM?
Yeah, and it was awful.
Unless you had like a beastly connection, you weren't playing SOCOM very long.
Well, even if you had a beastly connection, just how many people would cheat on that? Like, that was actually probably one of the worst things with the first few online games that you had, like on like the PS2, was everybody was cheating. Everybody was cheating. They were doing everything that they could to cheat. I remember you would start the game, and next thing you know, everybody dies. And then you'd see like this whole text thing like kind of go up the screen rather than just the deaths as it would normally show it on a shooter. So yeah, I think that was probably my first social game for PS. I take that back. For PS2, I would say that my first social game, despite it not being online based, was Time Splitters. And I think you remember that. Like, you came over and your brother would come over and I would build maps and then we'd all just, go play on it and everything. For hours. Right. So,
then again, you got a game. So you said Time Splitters, but how many other games were out for PlayStation at that time that was just you're by yourself playing this game?
Well, of course, because online wasn't a thing. I think it wasn't until Twisted Metal Black, because I'm pretty sure that you bought the adapter to connect online, and when you bought the adapter to connect online, it came with a copy to Twisted Metal Black, which you would go play with other people. I only remember this because I was playing this whenever my youngest brother was born. And then alongside that, I think the other big ones that everybody was playing at the time would have been Madden, again, another social game. Multiplayer in a way. You could play it single player. Some people do. But I would play like Madden against your brother, and we would have turns. Whoever's losing, they rip their connection out. That's pretty much the way that we go back in the day.
Somebody called.
Right? No one called you. My internet went out. I don't know. So now you can't do that. They caught on pretty quickly. So do you think that should Microsoft continue doing what they're doing with the whole social experience? Because I feel that that's what Microsoft should stick to. I don't think that we really need that tentpole single player experience. Let that be on the other consoles. We're going to get the third party ones that will stick out. Like, we got one to talk about here in a little bit. Dale should be joining us here shortly. But Darksiders 3, it had been recently announced and everything. I've never played it. Again, I'm not a single player type of person.
Cannot wait.
Right. Let's see if we can get him in here momentarily. What else did you take away? What else did you take away from this? From what Phil Spencer was talking about?
People are just so quick to try to find something that they don't agree with and latch onto it and make it a bigger deal than it has to be. And it's not anything different. It's what we were talking about, talking about it off air. Nowhere in his interview, in his follow-up, or in his reply to people commenting like, how are you going to take away single-player games, did he ever say Microsoft and Xbox are done with single-player games? Never once did he say that.
Right.
He acknowledged the fact that multiplayer games, social games were becoming the norm. And he's like, I acknowledge that, yeah. And then he moved on. It was never, well, I acknowledge that, so we're going to do the exact same thing. Like, no, he acknowledged it, and he left. He went on to talk about how great gaming was, how much he appreciated it. And for a guy like Phil Spencer to be, in his interview with Xbox On, I have never really been paid much attention to Phil Spencer. I've always heard of him like, he's probably some hot shot who like plays a lot of video games, works in the shadows, doesn't really care that much, like cares about the consumer, but doesn't really care that much to like be interactive with them all the time. I was kind of amazed at how down to earth and relaxed and like nonchalant about everything he was. I really expected like some suit and tie, like
some people like to call him. They call him Uncle Phil. Phil always seemed to be pretty lax, and I think that throughout this whole thing and the whole process and everything that's been said about it and twisted and changed for whatever reason, it seems that he's done pretty well of everything that he said. It always seems that you have to go in and you have to pick what you want to take away from it, because they again, you look at a lot of them and they take it as one, he insulted the games and we love the games, so why would you speak so foully about Zelda and Horizon? Is it because Xbox doesn't have them? No, that's not what he said. You didn't listen and you didn't read the whole thing.
You're ready for you to get lots of, how dare you talk badly about these games and call them anomalies? You don't even know how good they are. Did you even listen to anything I said at the time? Like, I said they're anomaly games. I didn't say they were bad. They're just anomalies. Like, Dizzy hates Zelda. He hates Horizon. When the hell did we ever mention that? So be ready for a lot of flag coming your way, because you know it's coming.
Right. It looks like we're having a slight technical difficulty. We can't seem to get, Lord Sleet to get into here. Let me see. He said he keeps asking. He's like, hey, it's not working. I'm like, crap. Of course it's not. It's because we're drinking, man. We don't know what we're doing over here.
I don't know where this wee's coming from. My drink is empty, man.
You're about to need a refill already, see?
I could go for a refill right now. There you are.
Right. Let's see if we can't get him in here, and then we'll pick this back up and everything, because I know that he has a lot to say about this subject in general. And looks like our buddy Room, he said leave Fable alone, but it's not to disrespect and to hate on Fable. It's just that whenever I look at Fable, I don't see it in the same light as what you see with like the Uncharted series, right? So everybody knows the Uncharted series. Oh, here we go. So everybody knows.
There he is.
There we go. Here we go. So again, Room, it's not to hate on it. Everybody knows the Uncharted series, but I can't go out and say that everybody knows Fable, whenever it comes to the gaming, because it's not like that they plastered Fable everywhere. Sleet, we were just talking about Uncle Phil's comments. Do you have anything to say? Because I know that you've had stuff to say before. I'll let you speak.
Honestly, I think there is a reason for people to be a little bit concerned, but I feel like a lot of it was completely overblown and just out of proportion to what he said. If I'm honest, he never said that single player games are going to die and never exist anymore. What he said, basically verbatim, is that multiplayer games and games as a service is where money is being made more, and that's just a cold hard fact. That's the way the business and everything is. So
You know,
I just feel like people were taking his comment out of context and making it bigger than it was. So.
I almost look at it is, remember when the Xbox One was announced and they were talking about DRM and how it would, affect gaming and everything going on in the future, and then they got all this flack, and then the Xbox One and the PS4 come out, and essentially the majority of the games in one form or another have its own set of DRM where you have to connect to their servers in order to play the game in the first place, right? So we look at it this way, and he's talking about these service-based games, and then we see something. Now, granted, Overwatch, you don't have to pay for anything, but the way that it's set up is very service-based like, because which just recently released today on both the Xbox One and the PS4, Paladins, which is a service-based game. And Hi-Rez also made Smite, a service-based game. Some very popular games, might I add. And then you flip it around, Destiny. It runs off of that DRM status, because you have to connect to Bungie servers in order to play the game. And then you got The Division, another popular game where you have to connect to servers in order to play it. Other than if you're playing Call of Duty, where if you're peer-to-peer, even though they say that you're not playing peer-to-peer, it seems like that the majority, because we look at, I know Reaper was just talking about Mass Effect a little bit ago. BioWare has their own Destiny/Division game coming out, which would end up being that service style based game. So it almost makes you wonder, it seems like he's foresighting a lot of things and people are refusing to acknowledge it, but he's telling you what's going on with the industry. He's not saying it to be a dick about anything. It's just, this is what's happening. Here it goes. But as we were speaking about single player,
that's kind of the thing about Phil.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's the kind of the thing about Phil. He's 99% of the time he's just upfront about things, and this isn't the first time that he's tried to prepare people for something that is inevitably going to happen or happening now, and people just didn't respond to it well.
Right, right, and it definitely is not the first time that this has happened. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, speaking on single player games, we were actually we kind of briefly mentioned it earlier. Darksiders 3. Okay, so Sleep, I know nothing about this series. I think that we were speaking earlier, and when the game originally released, I used to get Darksiders and Dark Souls confused quite a bit. I think it was the Dark they released around the same time, and I think one of my buddies was playing one, but I wasn't sure which one. I really thought it was the same game. I was like, oh, I guess whatever. I guess I had the wrong name. So, for somebody who's completely ignorant to the series, would you please inform me, what is Darksiders about?
Okay, firstly, what I'm going to say is, in my whole history of gaming, there has been 2 games where I have sat up all night on release and played all the way through to the end in one sitting. The first one being Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. The second one being the original Darksiders. I love the franchise so much. So basically what it is Earth's on Earth and humankind gets wiped out. And then the first game, War, gets sent to Earth because he was called as the start of the apocalypse. But what ends up happening is they serve a charred council, and as you go through the story, the charred council, basically they try to blame War for jump-starting the apocalypse and saying that it was his fault, which isn't the case, and you learn that the charred council actually jump-started all of it in order to punish War, because in the comics, which it does go into that, in the comics, War is kind of brash and hot-headed, and he does a lot of decisions and everything that everybody else doesn't agree with. So, and what they're trying to do is you're playing as War, and you're serving the Charred Council because they tell War, hey, you do this, and, you know, vie for your freedom, we might let you free. Of course, it doesn't end up that way. So the second game, what you do is you play as Death, who is the oldest of the four horsemen. And his job, well, not his job, but what he's aiming to do is go through the game and find some kind of way to get proof that War, you know, is innocent and didn't cause any of it. And the reason that fans like myself and everything who love Darksiders are so hungry for Darksiders 3 and have been for so long is because 2 was left on such a cliffhanger. You go through the whole game and Death has this famous mask and everything, which I actually have a copy of. I love the game so much. And at the end, he sacrifices, well, it's implied that he sacrifices himself and the Nephilim, which is a race that the Four Horsemen belong to. And he sacrifices himself and that whole race to bring humankind back and save War. But they never show you anything after that. You see him dive into this well of souls, and that's it. And then they promised a Darksiders 3, and then the whole issue happened with THQ and all that stuff, and them selling off the franchises and everything. So it's just exciting get some answers on all this, you know, cliffhanger nonsense. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
And so, Reaper, you've played the game, right?
The first one, yeah.
So I'm the only one that's left out. I picked it up whenever they gave it away. Was it a few months ago? I thought that they gave both of them away, and I was sitting there going through each of them. I was like, no, I don't see it here. They re-released it on the Xbox One, the PS4, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess that's a a way to go, an incentive to go pick it up and everything. Again, single player game, not my cup of tea. I'm more of a social gamer. Is this going to appease the social gamer?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
I'll be honest with
you. Whenever I look at it, like I see, to me, like it almost looks like a multi-console looking version of what would be like God of War, because you're dealing with, you know, apocalyptic looking individuals, and of course, you know, in God of War you have Kratos and dealing with Greek mythology and everything. So it looks like that it's pretty embedded as far as mythology and biblical stuff goes. I hear through rumblings that there are some individuals that are upset because of a female protagonist. Is that
yeah?
Does that sound about right?
There's people who are upset that. Yeah, there's some people who are upset that it's a female. There's others who are upset that it's Fury this time instead of Strife because he has yet to have a game, or that it's Death because, like I said, people still want answers to how the second one ended off. And before the whole issue happened with THQ, Nordic Games had teased a game that had all 4 of the Horsemen in it as the next game, and it was going to be a co-op game. And people were really looking forward to that because that would have been cool, you know? So
right
some
on.
people are kind of miffed that they didn't go that way, which I can understand.
Yeah, I think that I probably would have been more likely to pick up something, especially if it had co-op installed. Which, I mean, did they say anything about it being co-op, or no, this will not have co-op? I mean, is there a chance that there could be co-op actually part of this, that they just haven't showed it off? Because, I mean, they literally just teased it today, correct? If I'm not mistaken, right?
I honestly wouldn't see it being in 3. If I'm honest, if I was a betting man, I would think if 3 does well, they'll do 4, and it'll probably be a game about Strife. And then if that does well too, maybe the 5th game will be that one with all 4 in co-op. If I'm honest, but I mean, I would prefer it earlier, but I don't see it happening.
Well, why not make the 4th one co-op, you know, or make it a play with your friends and your friends go beat up on one person, and we'll call it Darksiders Legends. Eh?
Hey, I'd be down. I would not be against that one bit.
Right. But another game that was kind of, it's been tooted around a little bit here and there, and then some rumblings happened about, bad development, and then it was pulled away from development, and then it was being redone. Have y'all seen anything about Phantom Dust today? I believe it was Polygon. When I was watching the trailer to it, I was like, that voice sounds familiar. And sure enough, it was Nick Robinson who was speaking about Phantom Dust 2. I was pleasantly surprised of the way the Phantom Dust looks. I never played the first one. Have either of you played the original Phantom Dust?
Negative.
No.
No? Hey, Reaper, I know that you saw the trailer. You kind of like, or not the trailer, the video of it. Yeah, you saw the gameplay. You said it looked kind of Final Fantasy-like?
It looked kind of like the new battle system in Final Fantasy 13 and 15, where it was like real-time action, real-time combat, but kind of like dead center in the back of the character, and it's just, I don't know. I don't like it. Like, I like 13.
So you're not a fan,
was
huh?
fun. Well, Final Fantasy 13 was fun. 13-2 was just kind of, I haven't played 15 yet, but from what this game looks like, it just looks like it's going to be the pass, like the pass of the year for me. Like, oh, this game came out, you going to get it? No. I'd be much more inclined to buy Destiny Digital Guardian Edition Part 2 than buy this game. Yeah, that's right. I went there.
I think you're the only person besides me who I've heard who likes Final Fantasy 13. Everybody hates on it.
It was a fun game. The combat was definitely a change. It took some while to get used to. 13-2 was just god awful atrocious. It was just like, what the hell did you do to this game? And then 13, I saw 13-3 and I was like, nah. 13, no, I'm good.
Fair enough.
No.
So Final Fantasy 13 has 3 different games? Am I understanding that?
They all center around the exact same person and the exact same premise. And it's just like, please no. Like, you would think after the abomination that was 10-2, they'd be like, let's not make sequels to standalone Final Fantasy games. Let's just cut that shit out.
But only that,
Let's just put all the money.
They followed the formula too. They did 13-2.
Oh,
jeez Louise.
And then the next one was what was it? Lightning Returns, which wasn't bad. It just wasn't as amazing as older Final Fantasy. So
you'd think they'd realize, you know what? Let's put all of our money into remaking Final Fantasy VII, because that's all anybody wants at this point is a remastered 7. Nope. Let's make a shitty 13-2 and put out 15 instead.
But I've been on the opposite end of the spectrum of that. I'm like, I like my nostalgia where nostalgia was. I don't want you to touch it with your dirty hands and ruin the game. Nope. And they're adding things to it, even to make it look better. And you could say nope all you want to, but I don't know. It's just how I feel. I like the bubbly looking characters. Like, I mean, your arms should have looked like that, too. But so to me, I'm just like, just leave it alone.
You know what I don't like when they do?
What?
Oh,
I stole Final Fantasy 7 from a friend of mine in Missouri before I moved to Boston. That shit's sitting in my freaking entertainment center right now.
Thank you. Now we have an admitted thief on the podcast.
What up? I stole that shit, and I'm not too ashamed to admit it. Dane, if you're looking for your copy of Final Fantasy 7, yo.
So now you know who the culprit is.
Yeah, I still have that. I still play it. Actually, that's one of those single-player games I'll go back and replay countless times because it's amazing. That being said, I would love to see it in new graphics. I would love to fight Sephiroth with brand new graphics. Or to hunt down a chocobo.
But the sad part is, and I was actually talking with some friends the other day, is, Sephiroth seems so anticlimactic by the time you get to the final boss that you realize that, when you beat him, you're like, I'm pretty sure I had a harder time with the secret weapons. And
Are you talking like
Sephiroth
final
at the very end.
Sephiroth?
Yes. This is
So-
my final form. Just kidding.
I actually talked to a friend of mine about that, and apparently they built an algorithm into the game that no matter what happens, you cannot lose that fight.
I wouldn't doubt it.
He
I
said
mean,
that
all
no
you
matter-
need is knights. You send the knights out there, and it's.
Well, no, he said that no matter what they do, no matter what happens, he only hits you for, I think it was like a little less than half your health. So if you go to that fight and you wait, like you won't go away for like 3 hours to come back, you'll have 1 health and he'll continuously hit zeros until you kill him.
Yeah.
So they made it impossible to lose that fight. And I was like, that kind of ruins it, actually.
The annoying thing is with the Sephiroth fight is if you had Cloud with the Ultima Sword and you did Omni Slash when Cloud was at 999 HP, you won. You win. That's it. You're done.
Yeah,
That is
Room does
that was
agree. He
annoying.
says, Room agrees. He says, fuck 13.
I told you, Room's one of those guys.
Shout out to Lord Addict out there. Yeah, so I mean,
You're a
we're
jerk.
way off topic as far as Phantom Dust and everything. So I think that the thing that kind of like stuck out to me was when they talked about the fact that when you play it, what they pretty much did was they made it native to what your console or your playthrough would be. So if you have a 4K TV, it's going to be native 4K for you. Or if you're playing on the Xbox One is going to be running at a 1080p, crisp for being it was technically an Xbox game. It wasn't a 360. You just could play it on the 360. Did they ever even release a 360 version, or was it just backwards compat? Does anyone know? Because I
have no clue.
I have no fucking clue about that. Card-based game. They said you'll be very pleased about the pricing, which leads some to believe that it might be a $20 title or so. I, however, see it in a different light. Going back to Uncle Phil and his service-based game, I would not be surprised to see this a free-to-play game and you buy card packs to add to your arsenal to go play against other individuals. What about y'all? Is free-to-play the way to go with this, or should this be a $20 title that will probably more than likely already have microtransactions in it anyways?
I'll be honest, I see this going the exact same way as the Magic games. Free,
See that?
buy packs. It works.
That's what I see as well.
Yeah.
I hope in a way that they would follow something like Hi-Res does, where you can achieve everything that you want. It'll be more grinding. However, if you want a leg up, buy a booster pack. I think that might be the formula they might be going with. They kind of probably dabbled with it with Halo 5. Buy some cards here.
But if with Halo 5, it was also like you can either spend money to get the packs, or you can just play games to get the packs.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means, like, in the end, like, you can achieve everything. It's just a longer grind. Or if you want to get the shortcut, because whatever's in the packs is not going to be guaranteed. You're going to get guaranteed this. It's
Right.
still going to be a randomized object that's going to be within there. So it's closer, I guess, more of a gambling system than anything, which I'm all for. I think that one of my biggest gripes with Destiny was Xur comes to the tower, and he guarantees that you're going to walk away with, let's say the Gallarhorn. And for everybody else who grinded their ass out to go get the Gallarhorn, they're like, well, fuck, this was all for nothing, And I think with the Zulu was my big thing. Is like, for the longest time, I think I was the only one that had the Supercell, and everybody else didn't have one. I got mine the first week that the Taken King released. So, here I was super stoked, and then eventually, it was inevitable he was going to sell it. Whereas I thought that they should have gone the route with Diablo 2, where you have Xur and there is a gambling system, and you take your strange coins to Xur, and from there, You may not. You know, and I think that the gambling system seems to work. I think
It does. It does.
Yeah. Are either of you interested in Phantom Dust?
No.
I don't know. I like card games. I play the Magic games. I collect trading cards. It's on the radar. I just have to see more about it.
Right.
First.
I'm out.
Well, this is the big thing about this one is it's not that it is a completely remade or it's not a brand new game. It is essentially a refurbished, polished, and done nicely so that the new consoles, the new generation, get to experience the old one. It's essentially how they spoke about it. You know, like come experience what you probably didn't get to, because when it released, let's not forget that this released right when the Xbox went to the Xbox 360, and a lot of those games kind of got lost in transition. You know, I see all the time that people talk about, oh, well, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was the first one to go forward. Battlefield 2 was actually in the modern era, but a lot of people, they lost it in that transition because it released at the time frame that it did. So you may or may not have, also with the fact that Halo 2 released at that time as well. So, I mean, that was taking a lot of the social space for your time with your social space and everything. So I'm vaguely interested. It's normally not my cup of tea. I could care less for digital card games, although I do like the Elder Scrolls card game. Have either of you played Gwent yet?
I tried it for about 20 minutes.
Did you? What about you, Reaper?
Yeah, go ahead.
As Reaper over here chugs down his Jameson. Is it Jameson or is it Jack?
It's Jack.
Okay.
No, once I finish my handle of Jack, it'll be Jameson.
Right on. Did you try it?
No, not yet.
I didn't care for it. I felt that the tutorial wasn't very tutorial-like. Like, the tutorial made me more confused. I hear that if you play Witcher 3 actually explains how to play Gwent better than Gwent explains how to play Gwent, which I'm like, how is that?
Oh, it does.
Why didn't? And that's awful.
It does.
That's awful. I can't believe that.
It's not good.
It did. It definitely isn't. So you got Phantom Dust. I would care to guess, based on looking at it, I think that we're going to get this at E3.
Probably.
They didn't say when it's going to release. They didn't give a price point. They just said that you will be very pleased about what the price point is. If I were a betting man, this is going to be a free-to-play game with microtransactions. Not technically pay to win, but pay to get ahead, maybe. Or you could play to get ahead. That's what I do on Smite. I play to get ahead.
You still play Smite?
And I think that they're going to give it away at E3. I think that that's going to be the game. Like, I hear rumblings that people are like, oh, they're going to say this about Cuphead or, you know, one of these other games. I think that it's going to be Phantom Dust. I think that they're going to say, and now available this will be at the end of the conference and everything. They'll probably go the whole conference without even showing it off, or maybe till the end, and then they'll be like, and now you can play for free. It's like, yay, everybody. What would you say? When do you think Phantom Dust has the best shot of releasing?
Well,
I would
Shout out to
definitely
the
say
chat,
sometime
Lord Kai.
right after E3 or before. I think it done with the holidays for sure. If not, it's going to die. To be honest.
Lord Kai says he's going to be pissed if they unlock Phantom Dust at E3 because he's going to be there at E3 and he won't get ahead of that. So if that happens, mark my word, I will pick it up. I will get as many cards as I can to get ahead.
Send him screenshots or clips.
Right? I will have to. And then maybe he'll you get to go bully the kid there in the corner at E3. Like, put you in the corner. Nobody puts Lord.
Nobody.
What about you, Reaper? When do you think that Phantom Dust looks like it's going to be released? Because you saw the gameplay.
It looks pretty polished. Looks like they're probably done with mostly what they're going to do with it. Probably like touch-ups here and there, tweaks here and there. If they're going with the free-to-play model, I could actually see them talking a lot about Scorpio at E3, and then as they're walking off stage, like, oh, by the way, the first game that's coming out for it is going to be Phantom Dust, so get ready, and then just walk off stage. Or they could just totally curveball and walk out and be like, hey, by the way, Phantom Dust, active, go get it. Project Scorpio, here we go. And it's like, wait, what? Do we stay for Scorpio announcements, or do we go pick up this new game that came out? What are you doing to me, Phil? Phil, you son of a bitch!
Right.
At that point, you just see Lord Kai like, well, I'm out of here. Peace. I got a game to go play.
No, he's not leaving that Scorpio announcement. That I think that even this is too much of a pull.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Rise? Thank you for joining us. Coming in at the tail end.
What up, Bryce?
Right on. So I say E3. Andrew, it sounds like that you were saying E3, and Sleet, it sounds like you're saying right after E3.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do we have on Sleet or on Sleet? What else? What other nerdy things do we have on Lord Sleet today?
Are you from Cleveland? Oh, you sick bastard.
So what else is on Sleet? So we know that we have Cuphead at some point this year. So when does Cuphead fit into the schedule of releases for 2017 for Xbox?
Holiday season.
2 years later.
Right.
2 years later. It feels like that it's been because it has been. It's not that it feels like it has been.
By the way, guys, we're working on Cuphead still. We know you want it. Just give us like 5-6 more years. It will be here shortly. Motherfucker, what?
Like I'm so excited to play Cuphead, and I'm like, why did y'all have to show it off when you did? You know, but like
Cuphead release today.
They showed it off before We Happy Few, and then you got to play We Happy Few before you could even play Cuphead. Of course, they went through a whole development change, but then we look around and we see We Happy Few is still sitting in the preview, and they don't talk too much about it these days. But that's a whole other story for another day.
That's because it's We Happy Dead.
Yeah.
Before it even came out, it's dead.
Right.
Sorry. I'll stop.
And it's sad because it looked so fun. It looked really fun, and then we got what we got out of it. It goes back to what I was saying. Yeah. I think it was on the last After Hours. Like, I don't like when they take a single player game. It might have been not an After Hours, maybe a Dizzy Talk. I don't like when they take a single player based game and they put it into the preview program, because then you do all the single player stuff for the single player game that technically will probably not have much of a change, even if they alter, like, let's say if it, randomized the maze of the city, right? Even if they change the randomization of the city, it's still going to have a similar path that you're going to take to do the campaign. So I just don't like it when you take that single player experience and you put it in there. Like, why would you do that? Whereas you look at Ark, Reaper's not going to like this because you got 2 Ark survivors in here. we're about to talk a little bit about Ark for a little bit.
I'm going to go ahead and sit back. Should I make another drink now, or should I wait until we're done here?
Lord Kai asked if they did a lot of updates to the Elite Dangerous console. To Elite Dangerous on the console, yeah, they have. There's a lot of updates. Now, I haven't played any of them, but I know that you can land on planets or certain planets. They found aliens that are now killing people. and people are forming their own federations and all that shit elsewhere. There's a lot of stuff like Anchorman is probably the best person to talk to as far as Elite Dangerous goes. I only played it whenever he was on there, and I've yet to get back in there. Anytime I boot up Elite Dangerous, I shit you not, I get out of the dock, I make sure I can land back in the dock, and I turn the game off. I'm like, yep, still got it. You know? That's my Elite Dangerous experience.
You can do more in Elite Dangerous than you can on, oh god, what's that game? The Hello Games game. No Man's Sky. Take that for what you will.
No Man's Sky. Get on No Man's Sky. How could you botch such a good-looking game so fucking terribly?
Simple. You lie about everything. That's what they did.
He must be good friends with a Mr. Peter Molyneux. I'm not going to name names, Mr. Molyneux. As Lord Kai likes to call it, the game that shall not be named, right? But Elite Dangerous is actually a very perfect example of a game that went into preview. It's not technically a single-player experience, but it has a single-player experience. You can play with friends if you want to, or you can play in the world if you want to, which in the end, it still links together. But the way that it is and the variation that you have, it's not the same as when they drop We Happy Few in there. Granted, here's the fucked up part about it. Yes, I'm cussing in this podcast. I don't give a shit.
No.
18 or older. Yeah. 18 or older. If you're a child, get out of here.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. It's just the survival mechanics, but it does so much of the mechanics that it's going to take a lot of your single player experience for the campaign as they tell the story, and it's going to feel like that you've been here before while they tell you something. It's like as if you make sandwiches all day long, right? And today, what the thing's going to be different is your manager's going to walk in and read a book to you while you make sandwiches, Whereas you look at Elite Dangerous, the variation that you have on there is there. You look at Ark, the variation that you have there, there's just so much different variation. Every single playthrough is not going to be the same at all. For right now, like I just restarted on a official server. I know Sleet hates PvP. I keep trying to convince Sleet to do PvP, and he refuses. He says,
it's okay.
"Don't touch my shit. Don't look at my dinos." He goes, "Don't touch my shit. Don't look at my dinos. Stay on your side of the fence and keep moving." Right?
I don't know if you watched our stream last week. That's exactly what my argument was. Like, if I put 16 hours into building this fucking base to go take a 30-minute poop and come back and it's all gone, I'm not playing that fucking game.
No, I did listen to the stream last week, and I agree with you completely. I do. If I spend 3 hours on this goddamn house in this goddamn video game and somebody blows that shit up, you will hear about me on the news. Shit will go bad.
I will swat you faster than you can fucking say I'm sorry.
Right now, I got back into playing Ark, and the good Kal-El over at Tick, he actually plays with me. We play together. We play on the same server. I got him to get back into this server with me. We're in the same tribe. Now, this tribe is different from a lot of this tribe, let me tell you, is a lot different than other tribes that we've been in before, because this is a kill-on-sight tribe. If you see people and they don't have green or blue above their name, kill that motherfucker. So that's what I've simply been doing, right? And I know Cal, he was not used to this. And he would see people, he's a little bit more friendly and, willing to help and everything. And we're like, no, if you see them, kill them. If they're breathing and they're moving, they're not a dead corpse. You don't have their imprint. Kill them until you get that imprint, right? So I am now known on this server for being that guy on the Spino that goes in the water, and they're unsuspected when I roll up on my Spino and just munch their shit to hell, right? So these two guys, these 4-2 guys, I happen to be flying around this time. I'm not on my Spino. I'm on my Tapahara at first. And so I go out there and I see that they got all their dinos around, and I'm like, there's no fences around here, right? It's ARC story time right now. Okay. There's no fences around here. Let's kill these fuckers. So that's what I did. I was like, so I killed them. They went and they hid in their house, and then that's when I got my Spino, and I came back and I killed them. Just today, this was like 3 or 4 days ago. Just today, somebody was talking about, I need to get out of here because this guy on the Spino keeps coming to my village and killing me. I simply had to say, I do not. It's like, yes, you do. But I could, but that's the thing about it is, a game like Ark goes into there. The variation that you have. Before this, I was still playing PvP, but I wasn't an aggressive PvP player, right? Say that 3 times fast. I wasn't very aggressive. I would defend myself, and I think that that's where my difference is, because I know how people are on PvE, and you have a lot of trolls there that will find ways to get your shit destroyed, and you can't do anything about it. And that, to me, that's more upsetting than if I built a garden and you came and you beat down my garden and I have to rebuild it. That to me, that's just more of like, I need to do better about what I'm doing. Whereas, again, if it's PvE and they have a Titanosaur come and stomp on my garden, I'm really SOL, and there's not much I can do except for the same tactic back to them, and then I just look like a dipshit. How do you play Ark, Sleep?
What happened?
how do you play? How do you play Ark? You tell me. How do you play Ark?
Mostly I do single player because I'm not proud of the way I get in PvP. Like, I've told the story before where a friend of mine, I'm not going to name him, I'm not going to put his information out there. He did something real small, and I completely freaked out, and it was completely my fault. He messed up, like, I think it was like this little 4x4 I made. Anyway, I completely overreacted. I knocked him out, put him in a cage in the water, so he was barely drowning, but not really. And then while he was in the cage, I kept knocking him out, and I fed him poop until he died.
That's fucked up, dude.
I was bad.
But it's one of those games. It's one of those games that it brings that stuff out in you. Like my primalness can stick out and everything. And then the beautiful thing about a game like these is the updates that they do put into it, and there are developers that they'll put their stuff into it. Lord Kai says that we are sadists on Ark. That's really not even the worst thing I've ever done. And I've tried to get Lord Attic to play with me, but Lord Attic is that individual that will spawn into the low-level area, and it's supposed to be nothing but bunnies and cuddles and happy, sugary sweets, and the worst thing will spawn there and kill everybody. Like that's Lord Attic whenever he jumps on Ark. So I'm like, you stay away. Last time he jumped on with me, he got my boat destroyed. Actually, it wasn't him, it was a Starco, but I digress. So a game like Ark, a game like Elite Dangerous, they add such a variation, especially when they do the updates, and you could tell that each of those developers, they care about what they do. Despite addicts be like, kill them all. If you heard. So despite what some of us, and even people who play Ark, sometimes we feel that maybe Wildcard isn't putting their best foot forward whenever they're delivering the stuff for Ark. But despite all that, they actually do. We just don't like how long it's taking, despite them giving all this great content. Whereas I look over at We Happy Few, and this is one of the things that is sort of upsetting about it is I look at it and I see that they've only had 1 or 2 major updates that made any kind of an impact with the game and changed anything or added something new to the the world of We Happy Few. So it's not multiplayer, so the variation of what you're doing is already going to be skewed down and limited. All they're going to be doing is, like I said, your manager's going to walk in, while you make sandwiches today, I'm going to read a book to you. Are you my mother? So, what up, Lord Cognito? He's just missing the infamous Arc Talk. But speaking of that, go ahead, Sleep.
Oh no, I was going to say the moment I lost all faith in We Happy Few and in early access is when they released Subnautica, right? And I've been looking forward to Subnautica coming to consoles. I watched videos of it on PC and everything for the longest time. So I bought it right away. And in the first month, they had twice as many updates to that were major as We Happy Few had since it came out.
And it's a sad reality for We Happy Few. Like it does not make any sort of sense. But they're going to be adding more games into the preview program. More than likely, I think that the next one going in is going to be Conan, would you say? Are you interested in anything about having a long baby forearm dick as you're killing gnolls? Look at Reaper. Reaper right now is just like, did you just say that?
No, it's not even that, man. It's just the fact that it's like Arc Talk to Conan, and then like, I literally hear all this Arc Talk. It's like, okay, it's talking about dinos, don't care. Baby arm for a dick. What? What the fuck did I just miss?
So Conan.
Hey, if Lord Cognito's in the comments, that's the biggest selling point for him.
Right? I talked to him the other day, and he was, at first I thought he was joking, and I was like, no, are you really thinking about this? He was like, yeah, I got to let my thing show. I was like, okay, looks like we're going to be playing in Conan.
Listen.
Cognito says, game of the year, penis talk.
Yeah, Cognito's thing, I know how he works. He wants his junk showing, and he wants his thralls working for him in the meantime, man. I know how he's going to roll.
Yo, he's got to have hose. He has a big dick. He needs the hose doing all the work. All right.
The big thing is I'm curious. If they're going to be able to get away with this on the Xbox Live, I want to say that they will because hey, motherfucker, I put this as mature audiences, and mature audiences mean mature audiences, right? So. There's other games that show plenty of nudity. Granted, baby arm wasn't hanging out, but I digress.
So, just an update. Lord Kai, Conan's dancing schlongs have scarred me. And Lord Cognito, I'm swinging in that and thralls. They already confirmed no console dicks.
That's a damn shame. Right?
Thanks, God. Appreciate
it. Whenever I look at probably the closest Arc references, they added the birthday suit, which is pretty much a censorship that goes over top. Yeah, boss censorship, right? Which it makes it look like a Sims character. But then they added a sheep, and the way that they showed off the sheep, they said the sheep was brought in because of some animal humane thing. And we're doing it because of this. They didn't do it because of that. They did it because they wanted to put their character right behind the sheep and make you think that it was a sheep fucker. You aren't pulling anything. You're not slick, Jet. We saw what you did.
You're not pulling the sheep wool over my eyes. Just my penis. Well, you sick fuck. Ew.
Right out. So we talked a little bit about Phil's comments, what we thought about that. We talked a little bit about Phantom Dust and a little bit about Darksiders, and then we got carried away with the whole Arc and censoring
dick
of
talk.
baby arms and dick talk. That's what you get in After Hours, right? You get a bunch of drunk assholes talking about all this bullshit.
After Hours, where it's an hour and a half recording of 30 minutes of actual game talk and then an hour of drunkenly talking about dicks. That's about right.
You know, the sad part, they're going to be like, if you're drunk and talking about dicks, something's wrong with you.
Oh, dear. We
Oh,
may
dear.
have an issue.
That's our official...
Sounds like a podcast done by a bunch of college guys.
Right?
Well, I mean, I am in
It
college.
really does.
Your mom goes to college.
That's essentially become our hashtag, is hashtag oh dear. So we know if you listen and you follow hashtag oh dear to us, we know you watch. Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to give this a quick wrap up. Reaper, where can people meet you at? Where can they find you? Where can they get with the Reaps?
I am on that Twitter
On the
under
Twitterverse?
at Ellison5 and the number 5. So it's ELLISON FIVE and then the number 5 because, you know, I'm cool like that. I'm also on the Instagram. I take a lot of weird pictures that do not include food or, you know, selfies. I'm not an Instagram model. That's just literally look up ASR Ellison, or you can probably just search Voltron. Not that hard to find. You will hate every single one of my posts. I dare you to tell me I'm wrong.
Right. What about you, Mr. Lord Sleep? Where can people find you at?
Find me on Twitter at LordSleep, playbackgaming.net. We just posted the newest episode of Iron Lords Gaming. We talked about a lot of the same stuff we talked about here today and some other things. My most recent article is, of course, the Darksiders 3 reveal.
So, question about that.
If you want to have me on Xbox, it's Sleep Zero.
Did you have a huge erection when you were writing that Darksiders 3 review, or was this just like, you know, totally flaccid? I have to ask. You know, drunkenly talking about dicks and all. I'm very curious.
I was very excited.
I was very excited.
Were you rocking the full-on baby arm, as Disney would put it?
Hey, what happens on playbackgaming.net stays on playbackgaming.net.
We have no affiliation with the shit that we say. What? And likewise, you can find me on Twitter at iDizzy81. You can find me on Xbox Live, iDizzy81. Definitely, we do have a Discord. You can find us for the Playback Gaming Discord, playbackgaming.net. Do check us out. We're not a big News Central-esque thing, but we talk about the things that we are interested in and we think that you guys would be interested in as well. There's definitely other places that will cover much more than what we will, but we are very passionate about what we bring to the table. And that's why we continue to do that stuff with Playback Gaming. Every Sunday, I believe it's Sunday morning, Lord Cognito, you can skewer me later if I'm wrong about this. Every Sunday, Iron Lords podcast get together. Make sure you are tuning in live. And shout out to the Lords. We got the Lords in the chat this evening. And then, of course, you can find the following a day later on YouTube and everything. And they also post to are we still posting to SoundCloud?
And iTunes.
And iTunes?
And iTunes.
Okay, so you can find it on SoundCloud and iTunes. So do tune in. We got 2 awesome podcasts going on. Of course, this one is just going to get better and more drunk and stupid with baby dick arms. Hashtag
lots and lots of drunk. Hashtag OD.
So
this week in particular on Iron Lords Gaming, I know Lord Cognito will kill me if I don't mention it. If you watch or listen to it, skip in 12 minutes, there was a very, very heated discussion. It was between me and Lord Addict, as usual. And, and it got very real in the chat and in the podcast. It was a lot of fun.
It's a awesome podcast. It really is. And if you aren't watching it, something's wrong with you, because it's the best podcast that you aren't watching. I can guarantee you. There's a lot to be learned there, and a lot to learn about Lord Addict. He's terrible at Arc, and he's very wild in conversation. He's passionate. He's gonna kill me later.
He really knows how to take control of the party that he just randomly joins in that nobody invited him to.
But We thank y'all,
Combined.
and y'all, we are tuning out. Peace.